friends. I'm your host, Erin Port, and welcome to the Simple Purposeful Living podcast. Life can be overwhelming and busy, so once a week, I invite you to join me, and together we will make simple tweaks to uncomplicate the hard parts of our life so we can spend more time doing what we love. Welcome back to the Simple Purposeful Living podcast. I cannot contain my excitement today because we are going to talk about my brand new first debut traditionally published book, and I can finally tell you the title. It's called Tiny Tweaks, Happy Life, Simple Changes to Create Space for What Matters. And if you are watching on YouTube, you can see I'm wearing pink. See? Now you know why I kept saying, think pink. I was collecting all the pink stuff because my marketing team's like, wear all the pink. We want them to think pink, think tiny twink. So anyway, today is the day I finally get to share all the details, all the behind the scenes of what the book is about, who's the book for, everything that you wanted to know, didn't need to know, all the lessons, and what you can take away from reading. So let's dive in because I'm so excited. After years, literally years, I can finally tell you all about it. First of all, the thing that everybody wants to know is when can they get their hands on it? And the official due date, I keep calling it the due date for my book, baby. My mom started that whole analogy when I was writing, and she's like, come on, you're in the final trimester. You're ready to push, when I was just dying writing my manuscript. But my book, baby, is due January 27th, 2026, just in time for us to kick off the new year together. But before I go any further, I want to start by saying thank you, because none of this book would not be possible without you. Because something that you need to know about book publishing is that they don't just give authors the opportunity to write a book. You first have to prove that you have an audience that wants to listen to what you have to say. They want to see numbers. They want you to know that the book that they're going to publish is actually going to sell based on your audience. And so for me to be able to write a book, it really comes down to the fact that you all are here, that you are loyal. And so I just want to say thank you. I'm incredibly grateful for the community that we have built surrounding Simple Purposeful Living. Truly, it is my greatest honor, besides shepherding my family, to serve you. The other day, my business coach asked, what is my favorite part of running Simple Purposeful Living? And it's honestly, I started to cry because it's watching you transform your lives one tiny tweak at a time. And I'm so hopeful that this book will continue to help you transform your life, to love the one life that you have, because as I often say, we don't get a dress rehearsal. This is it. And I am so passionate about all of us getting to the end of our lives and saying, I lived it the best that I could. And we never know how many days we have, so let's live it well. So thank you, thank you, thank you. I wrote this as a permission slip for all of us as we head into 2026. So many of us believe that we need a big solution for our problems, right? We are overwhelmed. We feel stuck. We feel like we're just managing life. We're tired, exhausted. And all of those big solutions kind of have fizzled out, right? Maybe, I always feel like we get to January 21 and we're 21st and we're like, well, I'll just wait until 2027. And this year, I hope that Tiny Tweaks Happy Life is the permission slip to say, we're going to do it different. We're going to tweak our lives one tiny change at a time. And by the end of 2026, when we look back, we'll say to ourselves, wow, I don't even recognize myself. And all we did was tweaked our life one tiny change at a time. So that is my goal. I'm hoping this book, I just can't stop holding it and petting it. If you're watching on YouTube, I'll put it down. But I'm hoping this book is that permission slip for you and any other reader that picks it up. And so why did I write this book? Well, I've always wanted to write a book. When I started Simple Purposeful Living in 2018, I have always had the desire that there was a book to be written. I just didn't know what it was. And it wasn't until 2019 when we brought our youngest son home. We went through a really hard time. And I talk about this a lot in the book. But Quincy came home medically fragile with a lot of special needs, and also with the caveat that he was adopted, so a lot of bonding and trauma needs as well, in addition to caring for my three biological children, running a business, taking care of normal life, all of the other things. And life got really, really hard, and I felt a lot of shame and I felt very lonely. And I just remember I write about it in the book, but I was just had finished up feeding Quincy. He had a really hard time eating. He had a tongue tie and some other things that we just weren't even aware of when he came home. And so he would often vomit up all of his food. And it was after one of those feeding sessions, I got him cleaned up, put him down for a nap, and I just collapsed in the dark hallway and I started to cry. It had been months since he had been home, and I just felt so defeated by life. And maybe you haven't had that exact experience, but chances are you probably have felt that way. Maybe you have a chronically ill child. Maybe you have a child with special needs. Maybe you have a chronic illness yourself, or you're walking through a really difficulty in your marriage or a really difficult job. I mean, there are a myriad of reasons why life can be difficult. And in that moment, I knew I needed to make a change, but I just did not have it in me to make a big change. I just didn't have, I was exhausted, I was drowning. And so in that moment, I just decided to make a small change. And it was a light bulb moment for me to say, okay, I can make a tiny change in this moment. What do I need? And I needed a cup of coffee and I needed to wipe my tears away and I need to go outside and I need to stand on the back deck. And little by little during that season, I learned the power of a tiny tweak. And it changed the way that I lived my life and it changed the way that I shared on Simple Purposeful Living. And so this book is really all of the lessons learned, all of the things I'd like to share for the overwhelmed woman, the woman who wants a blend of practicality. Think Lazy Genius Way meets theory from Atomic Habit, but designed specifically for women. It's story driven, it's real, it's vulnerable. I mean, I share a story about the time I didn't wear a bra to school. I mean, I hope to make you laugh. I hope to make you cry. I mean, I don't want to make you cry, but like I am sharing my heart in hopes that we can connect and make a change together. It's also incredibly practical. I have to give a kudos to the design team at Zondervan. They went out of their way. Like when I made the manuscript, it is literally like a typed out Word document. And when I tell you, it is so beautiful on the inside. If you're watching on YouTube, I feel like you're getting a sneak peek. But there are lots of call outs, special sections where we share extra tiny tweaks. Try this tweak. Lots and lots of practicality designed and implemented into this book. It is designed to lower overwhelm, not add to it. It is a book that offers encouragement, clarity, and small doable steps to create a simpler, richer, and more meaningful life. And that is why I wrote it. So if you are that woman or you know a woman, that is who this book is for. And I'm so, so excited. Okay, so how is this book set up? So it is designed kind of, I think sometimes people might be surprised by this. I actually started, before we get to the tiny tweaks and all of the practicality, I actually start with minding your mindset and talking about what a tiny tweak is. But I learned early on in my career that unless somebody believes they can make a change, they aren't likely to. And so my very first part of the book is helping you to believe that you can make a change, to flex your fear muscle, and then also to help you know what actually makes you happy. The world will tell us what makes us happy unless we define it for ourselves. And so there's even a fun exercise in here that helps you define what your values are, what makes you happy on a granular level, because I hated that question for years. People would say to me, what makes you happy? Or what are your values? And I was like, I don't know, faith, family, my work. But it just felt so ambiguous that I actually designed a little exercise. It's in the first couple of chapters of the book to help you really get down to the nitty gritty of like what actually makes you happy and what does research say makes you happy, and how can you determine that for yourself based on those two things. And I think it's incredibly valuable. I always say this, but awareness is your superpower. When you know, you can be more aware to do those things with intention. So that's where the book starts, with minding your mindset, helping you understand what a tiny tweak is, where I come from, where I learned it. Like I said, I share the story of 2019 when we adopted Quincy. I also talk about flexing your fear muscle, because change takes a little bit of like flexing that fear muscle, right? And then we move into parts 2 and 3. Now that we know what makes us happy, now that we know what matters, we can start to create space for it. Because I've always said with simple, purposeful living, we're not just simplifying for simplification's sake. We simplify so we can make space for what matters. And parts 2 and 3 help us to do that by ditching digital distractions, clearing the clutter, helping us to automate with routines and rhythms, planning for what matters, all of those things that simple purposeful living is known for, all the tiny tweaks surrounding those habits and those systems, all are in parts 2 and 3. And it is super duper practical, but again, story driven to help you simplify in those areas. And then the last part of the book is called Maintaining Momentum. It's when you close the book and you say, okay, I've learned all these things, I've started it, but when comparison creeps in, when life creeps in, when doubt creeps in, what do you do to keep going? And again, just a reminder of what actually matters in a rich and meaningful life. So that's kind of how the book is comprised. 255 pages worth of great practical story-driven information. So a lot of people ask me, how did this book journey come about? When did you start? And so I thought I'd give a quick synopsis of that. I started writing, obviously in 2009 when I quit my career. I thought I was going to be a full-time principal, then superintendent, and then I had my first son, and I was spending more time with other people's children than my own, and I decided I needed to make a change. So I stayed home, but I missed having a passion, like project on my own. So I started writing on my blog in 2009. Eventually, 9 years later, you're seeing it's not an overnight thing. I turned it into Simple Purposeful Living, where I helped women simplify their lives. And I knew that there was a book in me, like I said at the beginning of the podcast. I just didn't know what it was. And so it was 2023, January of 2023. I was like making my New Year's goals, and I was like, I'm turning 40 this year, and I want to write a book. And if not now, when? And so I started writing a book proposal. I got a book about how to write a book proposal on Amazon. The book was longer than the proposal. I don't necessarily recommend that, but that's neither here nor there. And then I had a friend in the industry uh, look it over, and she was an acquisitions editor, and she said no. And that was really painful, I'll be honest. But she gave me some good feedback. She said, it's not practical enough. Women want practicality. And I think that you can refine it and it could be better. And so I think you should hire a writing coach. And because I wasn't a professionally trained writer and I had never written a book before, and writing a book is very much different than writing a blog post or an Instagram caption, I was like, okay. And so I invested in a writing coach. Her name was Ann Croker. And her and I wrote, I wrote it. She helped me, wrote my second book proposal, which was Tiny Tweaks, Happy Life. And that took all of that process from January. I think I got the rejection in April. I hired my writing coach. I think I finished that proposal July, right before my 40th birthday. So it took 6 months just to write the book proposal and get it just right. And from there, then I sent it out to literary agents. And what I learned, as I already told you, is that you have to have an established audience that's growing. So you're writing this book proposal and also helping, like trying to gain momentum online to prove that what you are saying actually has feet to stand on, if you will. And so that was really interesting to me. I learned that along the way. But I interviewed with 3 literary agents, and that was super exciting because as a brand new author, you feel like you have to, knock on the door a little bit. But I ended up picking Jenny Burke, and she picked me, and she has been a blessing to me. She is so savvy. She's so kind, but she has her author's best interest in mind. Like when she comes to a meeting, I know that she's going to have my best interest in mind because, of course, the publisher has their interest in mind. I have like what I know, but I'm new, so I don't know everything. And then Jenny has this breadth of information, knowledge. She knows who I am. She knows how publishing works, and she's just great help when we were then interviewing with publishers. So I hired Jenny right before my 40th birthday. I celebrated my 40th birthday knowing I had an agent on my side. And what I didn't know is then I'd have to refine that darn book proposal again. So I spent from August to I think December refining it. So they put it in a Word document and they do this thing called track changes, which I never knew existed in a Word document before, but you can click this review button and then you can type in, and they don't change it for you. That's another thing, but they'll give you lots of ideas and questions and say you need to add here or you need to think about how you want to say this here. Because as we know, when you write the written word, they can't hear your intention or your heart, right? It's why I love to use emojis, and they don't let you use emojis in traditionally published books. So you have to really make sure that you are expressing your heart and your intention. And so that was a lot of that. And then also just being able to really explain things so that the reader would walk away completely understanding what I was trying to express. Also, I like to use the word so a lot, and so we deleted that. And the other thing I love to use a lot, which is no surprise being the cheerleader that I am, is exclamation points. I'm not even going to tell you how many exclamation points were in the book, but I think there's 144 now, and they thought that was a manageable number. So you can highlight them and let me know. But we had to tailor that back as well. So lots of that kind of stuff. And then it got all refined. And then Jenny is so smart. She wanted to send it out with publishers because publishers are just like the rest of us. They think about things in cycles too, right? So she wanted to ship my book out to them to read in January of 2024 so that they, they're thinking the same thing we are. They're wanting to like change their lives. So they're going to be interested in reading this book or this book proposal as well. So they sent it out and they give them like 2 weeks to think about it and send I think maybe it was 4 weeks. It doesn't matter. 2 to 4 weeks. They send out the book proposal and then they accept if you want to have like an interview with the author. And then eventually then they'll say, send in your offer for the author. Offer for the author. And so I ended up interviewing with 3 publishers, Hachette, HarperCollins, and I think it was Harvest House. I think were the 3 that I interviewed with. They were all very lovely. Hachette said no, they weren't interested. And that's never fun to hear, but it just is part of the process. And then the other 2 were both interested. They both provided offers. Both were 2 book deals. And so I talked it over with my agent and we ended up going with HarperCollins. Now, I've heard other authors talk about this, but there are big 5 publishers. The big 5 is what they're called. A lot of independent publishers got swallowed up by this big 5. And I think of them as skyscrapers. This is how I explain it to my family. So I'm under the HarperCollins umbrella, but unless you're like a famous person like Reese Witherspoon writing her own book, most of us are going to be under an imprint in that skyscraper. So I'm in the HarperCollins skyscraper, but I'm on the Zondervan floor. So my imprint, when you look at the side of my book, it'll say Zondervan. And then in that imprint, then there's different people within that, and I'm in the TNZ Gifts category or cubicle section. I don't know if that's true. My whole group is in Nashville, is where my publishers are. And so my acquisitions editor at the time, Kara Mannix, and her team offered me the book. And so then I worked with my acquisitions editor, Kara, and we had a contract for a 2-book deal. And my first book manuscript was due in October of 2024. So I didn't even sign, I don't think until April. That's how long it took from January to April to get the contract and the offers in. I had from April to October to write the book. Luckily, Jenny said, start writing the book now because you want to give yourself time. So I actually started writing the book. I had the book proposal, which is usually as a first-time author, the first three chapters, and then I read the rest of the book. And that summer was a blur. I wrote a ton at the library because having 4 kids home from the summer, writing a book and running a business and being a mom was chaotic. It was so chaotic, but we did it. I turned it in a week early and I cried. I remember I cried. I couldn't believe that I actually wrote 55,000 coherent words. It actually ended up being like 56,253 because I wanted a few extra in case we needed to trim. Turned it in. It was like the best feeling in the world. I was like, oh my gosh, I did it. I didn't think I could. There were times literally where I was like, if I hadn't signed a contract, I might have been like, nope, I can't do this. But I was like, nope, I can do this. And it was so interesting because as I wrote the book kind of evolved. And I do remember somebody, I think it was my writing coach, said to me, write a book that you're really passionate about because you're going to get really sick of it. And I can't tell you how many times I've read this book and rewrote this book. And it is true. Like, I am so passionate about it. I lived it. I believe in what I wrote. But anyway, I turned it in October 2024. And then we went through edits. First developmental edits. So Kara came back and she would say, okay, she had this brain, because here's the thing, writing 55,000 words, you're like, how do you get it to get, I'm making an umbrella thing, but how can you like get it to be cohesive? It all makes sense, for everything to come together. But the editors have this gift of being able to like see it all in one snapshot and then be able to help you pull it together so the structure looks similar. Everything kind of has the same feel so that the reader's like, okay, I know what to expect as I'm reading through this book. Like, every chapter in my book has a takeaway and a tiny tweak to try at the end of each chapter. So they know, like, okay, these are the things I can practically apply, all those sorts of things. So developmental edits. And then, so sad, and it's not uncommon in publishing, but my editor, Kara, left right at the end, thankfully, of developmental edits. So then I got a new editor. Her name is Carissa. I don't know her very well, but she will be helping me write book 2 because I signed a 2 big deal. But then they handed me off to Bonnie, who was my copy editor, and she was the one who headed up the team. They did several rounds of copy edits, and that's the person that actually does like the dotting of the I's, the periods, how many times again did you write so, all of the typos, making sure all of my references are correct. I mean, they fact check it. There was a few that they're like, that's not right. I was like, I'm pretty sure it is. We had to go back and forth, all of those sorts of things to make sure that it is buttoned up and perfect. And I have to say, we only found 2 typos in the entire book during the audiobook reading. And they were kinds that you were like, yep, I could see how the eye could just overlook it. But if you find the 2 in the book, let me know. So anyway, we finished that up, all of the edits up in July 2025, and they shipped it off and it got started printing in India. And now it's in print. At some point, I'm sure it's on a ship between India and the United States, and it will be on bookshelves January 27th, 2026. So that is kind of the journey. I'm telling you, I go by Barnes & Noble now and I look at books and I think, wow, you took a long time to make. And that is why my mom started to call it a book baby, because it is a labor of love and it takes a long time. The gestation period is very, very long. So, okay, so that's kind of how that worked. I want to get to the end of all of this, but I thought it'd be kind of fun to look back and see. I think it's interesting. But let's get to the practical things, because that's what you all want to know. Somebody asked me this, where can I buy the book? The book is online everywhere. If you like to shop at Target and get your 5% off, you can pre-order there. Amazon, Barnes & Noble, Books A Million, all the places that you can think. You can even pre-order probably from your indie bookstore, but you can order it anywhere online. Yes, there's an audiobook version as well. I read it myself. I'm actually going back this week, tomorrow, to do all of my pickups, which basically means all the little edits that they need to do. I've already recorded it. They're just doing the final edits so that it's ready for you on January 27th. And the audiobook will be in your audiobook listening tool if you pre-order it on the day that it launches. And it will be, all the other books will be shipped. So there's that. I always get asked, are there pre-order bonuses? And yes, of course. I am so grateful that you ordered our book. And I kind of have teased this online, but I did a 5-part podcast series with 5 incredible women and experts in their fields, from Allie Worthington talking about mindset to Laura Vanderkamp talking about time management to Dr. Morgan Cutlip talking about the mental load, Shannon Lako talking about how to declutter, and then, of course, Crystal Payne talking about how to cultivate friendship in this culture today. So lots of amazing practical tweaks and encouragement wrapped up in that podcast series. And if you order one book, you get Allie Worthington's Mindset podcast that I did with her. And if you order 2 books, you get all of the podcasts in the series for free. And the point of buying 2 books is our hope is that you'll buy one for yourself and one for your friend for Christmas so that you can go through it together, maybe get coffee, talk about these things. I just believe in accountability and talking about these things with friends. So my vision is that you'll get together and you'll be able to chat, and it'll give you an opportunity for some friendship and connection along with growth opportunity. So if you buy one for yourself and one for your friend, you get the full podcast series. Plus, we have a printable online that says that you've been given a book that you can wrap up and give for Christmas, so that you have something to give that person for Christmas as well. All of this information, how you get the pre-order bonuses, the the giftable printable, if you want to gift a book for Christmas, is on the website below in the show notes. So make sure you check that out. I will be sharing all of that on my socials as well. But that's where you can find where all the books are sold, where you get all your pre-order bonuses, as well as we are going to have a launch team, and that'll be a private Facebook group where you'll have access to me, access to extra materials that you can help me promote my book as a first-time author. It is very important that I have a team around me that can help me to share this message with the world, and I cannot do it on my own. And so I'm super grateful for those of you that are willing to join the launch team. And you just have to buy a book, and then you can be put into this private Facebook group. We'll have chats about the book, about what's coming, about tiny tweaks we can make, all the things that we can share. And I'm super excited about that as well. So lots of pre-orders incentives, but I just want to share this is if you only take one thing away from reading this book, this is what I'd want it to be. And somebody asked me the other day, what was the best tweak I ever made? And it's this, that I understood that you can change your life one tiny tweak at a time. You don't have to overhaul it. And I wrote this book as a breath of fresh air, a different way to live life. It's perfectly timed. We chose January 27th because by January 27th, people have kind of given up on their New Year's resolutions. They just think that they're stuck. And my hope is that this bright, colorful pink with gold confetti book will be the reminder that they need, that actually there's a different way. There's a better way. That one tiny tweak at a time, you can fall in love with your life, that you can pursue what matters, that you can make space for what matters, with just even little shifts in your mindset and in what you do. So I'm super excited, but I need something from you. Like I said, I'm a first-time author, and pre-orders matter immensely for first-time authors especially. My book is not guaranteed to sit on a shelf in any retailer unless we hit a certain threshold of pre-orders. It's just how it works in the industry. So it's always sold online everywhere, but in order to earn a spot in a store like Target or Barnes & Noble or Walmart or Costco or wherever you buy books, a certain number have to be sold for retailers to say, I'll buy that and put it on my shelves, because shelf space is valuable. So can I ask you to place a pre-order? It feels hard for me to ask for help, but you know what? That's a tiny tweak that I'm learning right now, is to ask for help from my friends and all of you here listening. If you would take the time to pre-order, it would mean so much. And if you have somebody in your life that you're like, I think they'd benefit from that book, a daughter, a sister, a friend, a teacher, an acquaintance, a colleague, would you buy it for them too as a gift this holiday season? And I just hope as we go into 2026 that it's the permission slip that we need, that we don't have to overhaul our life to love it, but one tiny tweak is all that it takes. And I'm so excited to lock arms with you, to chat about this book with you in 2026, to continue to look back to it when we need the reminder that we aren't stuck, that we don't have to stay where we are, that we can make a change, and it starts small with one tiny tweak. So thank you for tuning in. Thank you for celebrating with me. I'm still over here hugging my book baby. January 27th can't come soon enough. But until then, go ahead and pre-order, tell all of your friends, and thank you for tuning in. Thank you for being a part of our community. Again, it's all because of you. All right. Talk to you soon, friends. Remember, everything that you need to know is in the show notes below. Go and pre-order, and make sure you get those pre-order bonuses as well as my thank you to you. If you liked this episode, it would mean so much if you'd share it with a friend or leave a quick rating and review so others can find our show. Until next time, you can find me at Simple Purposeful Living on Instagram and Facebook.